So, thanks for coming to hang out with me in Chaotic Evil Games. It's Saturday night. Hope you're having a good week. I'm remodeling my basement. It's going to be an amazing game room. I have a huge game table for 40K and other war games and stuff. It's not going to be this green screen with fire and stuff. This is actually my recording studio, which is a whole other story, which I should be making music right now. Anyway, today I'm going to show you Black Crusade's free introductory adventure called Broken Chains. It was released in 2011 for Free RPG Day, ahead of Black Crusade's full release, and it comes with pre-generated characters, very quick introduction to the rules, and it's definitely worth checking out. I've uploaded it to my Ko-fi and Patreon page for you to go download for free. It's not behind a paywall. You don't have to subscribe. I won't stop you if you want to or whatever, but you don't have to. It's a new channel. You don't want to commit. I don't want to commit. It's all good. I do want to make as much cool content as I can, and just encourage people to play games that are chaotic and evil and, whatever. So, without further ado, let's check out the video and hit the links in the description and enjoy. Okay, so here is the free introductory adventure. It's called Broken Chains. It was released ahead of Black Crusade, however many years ago. It was part of Free RPG Day. So 32 pages, 4 pre-generated characters, lots of enemies, cool adventure synopsis, and lots of detail. Great introduction to Black Crusade. So we just kind of flip through it here, kind of like I do with some of the other videos, and great artwork, just like all the Fantasy Flight stuff. Look at this guy, he's got hands nailed to his armor. Okay, so you don't notice that kind of shit until you zoom in and you think, how did they get away with this kind of stuff? This was in Barnes & Noble and Borders, Anyway, I'm not sure who this is back here. It looks like she's either wearing a dress or she's floating on some sort of thing. She's got a plasma tank here, and honestly, this is definitely chaos at its finest. This artwork is what has inspired me to get into gaming for years and years. So it has, a quick introduction rather than a rambling 50-page introduction about the 41st millennium, Horus Heresy, and the Great Crusade. It basically gets right into the thick of it, explaining that in Black Crusade, the players play characters called heretics, and they are, at odds with the Imperium of Man and constantly being hunted by the Inquisition. And there's 4 characters that it comes with. First, his name is Azrael the Fated. He is a Forsaken archetype. I think there's like 8 or 10 archetypes from the core rulebook. And then there's Chaos Space Marines and humans. He's a Space Marine. The Forsaken, I don't believe, have their own chapter per se. They're kind of outcasts. They're not strong enough to form their own chapter, but they're too weak to be disregarded or whatever. So just like the guy on the cover, he's got some gaps in his dental coverage, and the artwork is just fantastic. So if you're a player of tabletop game, a lot of these weapons will look familiar. You get some of the stat lines, the weapons will look familiar. Some of the rules they introduce here are not even used in this introductory adventure. The Pride, failing, and the motivation. So these characters will be able to translate to the bigger game if you decide you want to play that. The Black Crusade is kind of something you want to pursue after this introduction. So he's got 18 wounds, he's got scavenged power armor, it gives him a strength bonus. Here his movement stats, his infamy points, and his weapons have their own statistic as well. Legion Bolter, Combat Sword, and Frag Grenades. So those weapons are familiar to 40k players. And then he has talents. He has a talent, or skill rather, a skill set right here. He's only got 5 of them. Typically you think you have quite a few more in Black Crusade. And then you have a few special rules and attacks. Next we've got a human renegade archetype named Nina Black. This is her character down here. She looks a lot like a cultist, a chaos cultist. She's a charming and charismatic leader. Those skilled with a blade or true weapons are her words. She can motivate, persuade, or command even the most reluctant under. So her weapon skill and ballistic skills are a lot lower than Drodell, the Forsaken Space Marine we just saw. But she's got higher intelligence, perception, and a few of the other skills as well. So she does not begin play with any of her gear. I don't believe any of the characters do. That's part of the game, which I'll talk about that in a minute. This character is really cool. His name is Zero. He's a chosen. He's an Alpha Legion, captured within the heart of the Calixis sector, and he believes in a cause larger than himself. Overthrow of the Imperium and the ascendancy of the Chaos God. True. Look at this weapon he has. So this is a Mark M stub cannon. Range is 100 meters. It's got a 100 round clip. Takes a full action to reload. Damage is D10 plus 10. So he's a pretty authentic Chaos Space Marine. Some movement. Let's see what his movement is. 3 meters. Half action, 6 meters for a full. So you can start playing the game immediately with these guys. And the last one we have Bastius Boar. It's a human heretic. This is Adeptus Mechanicus. He's got all kinds of rules and special. He's definitely probably the more complicated of the characters to play, but he has some of the best skill sets because of his augmentation. So a las rifle, luminant capacity. So that's really cool. We have a rules summary that gets into exactly what the characteristics are. That way when you're playing and you say, oh, I need to climb a 40-foot chain link fence, you'll know that that is going to fall under the agility skill, or you need to decipher a code. That might be intelligence. You know if someone's sneaking up on you, that would be perception. The skill sets, you get bonuses as well, and they will have governing characteristics like athletics and strength, awareness is perception, charm, fellowship, like I just mentioned. So here's some more skills over here. It gives you a very basic introduction to the core mechanic. Step 1 is you determine the skill to be tested, like agility, to climb a wall. Add or subtracting relevant modifiers to the skill. Let's say it's storming acid rain, so that's going to make it more difficult. And you make a percentile roll. If the percentile roll is less than or equal to the skill or characteristic being tested, it succeeds. If it's greater than, the test fails. So there's kind of 2 ways to do it. Let's say your skill being tested is a 40 and it's storming acid rain and you're trying to climb a fence. That would make it more difficult. So you could lower your skill, or you could take 20 points or whatever off of your percentile roll. actually add it to the roll rather than subtract it, because you want to roll under what your skill is. So an interesting mechanic here is you have degrees of success and failure. So if you're trying to roll under 40 and you roll a 7, and you have 40, 30, 20, 10, you have 4 levels of, or 4 degrees of success. So you scaled the chain link fence like it wasn't even there. If you were to only get 1 degree of success, you would probably have struggled getting over the wall. So that's the basic of the core mechanic. There are modifiers right here: the test difficulty, easy, negative, positive 30, all the way up to very hard. So it's not a very complicated system. There just are a lot of options to different skills and things to kind of keep track of. Combat is kind of operates the same way. There is a surprise round. Initiative is rolled. The initiative order is determined. The combatants take turns, and then the round ends, and then you repeat. There's full actions and half actions. Typically a movement and shooting a weapon they're each a half action. If you've played RPG games before, none of this will be new to you. Let's say you wanted to move 6 meters and shoot your gun, that would be 2 half actions. If you wanted to move 12 meters, that would be a full action and use up your entire turn. You wouldn't be able to shoot your gun. If you wanted to shoot your gun twice, depending on the gun, you could probably shoot it twice if you didn't move. So nothing too out of the ordinary there. It is presented in a logical format. The rules are easy to read. You do have to sit and read them. There's not a whole lot of charts and full, not a ton of descriptions. There's a few scattered around. But see here, you can take an action. Let me zoom in, because this is worth knowing. You can take the aim action. That's a half or full, and you would get a bonus to hit if you decided to take half of your turn to aim. If you do an all-out attack, it takes your entire turn. And that gives you a plus 30 bonus to your weapon skill test. And then you cannot use the evasion reaction. In other words, you cannot dodge until your next turn. You can charge and get a bonus. Move is half or full, like I just mentioned. You can run, which enemies will receive a negative 20 to hit you, and then a plus 20 to weapon skill to hit you. So there is some crunchiness to it. You can make your decisions based on. I really like the percentile system. I've got some ideas in my head for arena combat that would be percentile based as well. So, and then here are full descriptions of the combat action. So it doesn't just stick you with some charts and say, okay, go figure it out. It gives you pretty good descriptions of it. So, and then here is some other situations. You can have what happens if you get injured, what happens if you're fighting in total darkness, difficult terrain, you're being surrounded or ganged upon, someone's helpless or prone, point blank. And that's it. That's really the rules of the game. Here's how you work skills. Here is how you fight. That's the game. And then the game begins here with broken chains. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail. We'll talk about it a little bit, because if I sit here and explain the whole thing, then you might be less motivated to play it, or I don't want to spoil the adventure and the enjoyment of you being able to read it, because it is free. You can go download it right now, do it and read it for yourself, but I will go over a couple things. It has a little chapter on GM guidance, and it makes it a very clear point. These sidebars will provide the GM with tips, advice, and general guidance on how to deal with aspects of the rules in the development of the plot. It doesn't really give you a very direct path. Nothing is really numbered. There is no specific, there's no railroad. It is all left up to the game master and the players. It's really left up to the players because the game master has a plethora of options. The general synopsis, and I can read it on the back cover. Let me do that here real quick. I'll just read the back cover. That won't spoil it either. Look at the artwork. Murder servitors, and it's just insane. Some of the best artwork I think I've ever seen in playing. Introductory adventure for the role-playing game Black Crusade. For centuries, Starship Chains of Judgment served the Inquisition of the Imperium, transporting the most dangerous renegades to their doom. That's you. Now, however, the Chains of Judgment is lost in the warp. The imprisoned renegades have one chance to escape their fate and take the first steps towards leading a Black Crusade. Introduction to Black Adventures and Eternal Damnation in the Grim Darkness of the Far Future. Welcome to 40K Roleplay. Free, not for resale. Free RPG day that says 2011. So that's cool. Like I said, I'm often late to the party, but better late than never. So here, the heretics, the players, that's you instead of PCs or adventuring party. The players are referred to as heretics. You're prisoners on a ship called the Chains of Judgment. It was an Inquisitor transport ship, and you're locked in some sort of cryogenic sleep stasis holding cell type thing, and the ship got drifted off course or got overran by invading, marauding orcs or whoever took it over, demons. I think there's several demons on board, and it drifted off course. There was an overturn in the hierarchy which commanded the ship from an Inquisitor to an Interrogator. Now the ship has drifted off course. It fell into the warp, and it's in a complete state of disarray. It's full of demons and cannibals and just feral tribes of people. The ship is, I think, a kilometer and a half long, and then 3/4 of a kilometer wide. There's 3 distinct levels, and you start out, the players wake up and they're on this ship. They don't know where they are, and they have no weapons, and as you play, you encounter just a variety of people. I'll read this little caption down here. Captured by Imperial forces in 487.M39, the Chains of Judgment began its life, ironically enough, as a renegade destroyer fighting against the encroaching Angevin Crusade. The Imperial invasion to conquer what would eventually become the Calixtus sector. Considered too small and poorly armed to be of immediate use to the Crusade, it was offered to the Inquisition to aid in rooting out heresy in the fledgling Calixtus sector. Chains of Judgment was repaired and refitted as a prison barge tasked with conveying heretics to Scintia for a specialized interrogation or long-term incarceration. Not sure if that's Scintilla. I'll go with the Latin American pronunciation. So over a kilometer and a half in length and almost half a kilometer at its widest point, it was a vessel with a crew of thousands. It could hold up to 10,000 prisoners. On its last journey, the infamous Inquisitor Rinthor took command. He had a dark secret. He had a demon named Karnak Zul bound within the body of a human, so that it could remain outside the warp under Rinthor's control. So there's definitely some shady stuff going on in this game behind the scenes. So talks a little bit about the difference between Chaos Space Marines and humans, fate of the crew. There's a section on mapping the chains, but what I like the most about it is that there's actually no map. There's not a single map in the whole adventure of the ship. or any of the specific rooms where the encounters take place. So it's really up to the players and the game master to decide what the game is. I like this little section down here on the nature of heresy. It gets a little philosophical and lets you know, some of the underpinnings and the some of the philosophy of 40k. The player characters are heretics condemned for crimes against the God Emperor. This is, of course, a completely imperial perspective and assumes that the characters consider themselves bound by the laws of the Master of Mankind. It is worth remembering and reminding the players that being a heretic and being a soulless evil monster are often two very different things, although they are not mutually exclusive. Characters are heretics only because they adhere to a different set of beliefs or principles than those set down by the Ecclesiarchy, Administratum, or Adeptus Arbites. The Game Master can also use this approach in dealing with non-player characters, portraying them as unjustly persecuted rebels struggling against the totalitarian behemoth of Imperium rule, concept not too difficult to embrace considering the nature of the Imperium. After all, even evil men are often righteous in their own minds. So that right there, just saying these guys they're not just because they're chaotic and evil, they're just misunderstood. So I like that it explores some of the alternative philosophies and modernism of 40k. I think that's really cool. It's not just shoot the guy in the skull and drink his blood. Stop and think a little bit about it. So there's a lot of really cool artwork. I'm just going to flip through the rest. I think it's a really good introduction, and that's it. I got to the end pretty fast here. Like I said, I don't want to spoil it. I want you to go get the PDF and read it yourself, but it's a great introduction to the game, and I think it's a great introduction for anybody who's wanting to try out any kind of 40k role-playing. So thanks for stopping in and checking out the video.